The other day, I put a little video out. I warned you right up front it was going to be a rant. I wanted to talk about the status of things in our country with our politicians and our election systems, and how everybody is, and how they fight amongst themselves all the time. How nobody gives a hoot about me or you, or what we really want, or what we want them to do, or how we want them to act. They don't care. They just care about themselves and their own tomorrow, and what's good for them, what's good for their the party that they're affiliated with, what's good for furthering their agenda, whatever it is, and the money that supports them, those people that influence things. So I made that little video, went on a rant about when I was a boy, how I played basketball and how we loved basketball. And just because we loved basketball, we were able to stay above that kind of a thing, because we loved basketball more than we did winning that particular game that day. And I mentioned a guy in there that was a bully, and told you that hardly anybody liked him. He played all the time, though. I mean, when you saw him out on the street, you spoke to him. Everybody knew him. But we had this system called winners, and just to illustrate what I'm talking about, when he happened to be on the team that lost, you would have thought that the guy picking the next team would pick him up, because until somebody did something about it for that day, he was a definite advantage to be on your team if you wanted to win, because he didn't play by the rules. So you would have thought that even though nobody liked him, if you had to have him playing, you'd at least have him on your team. And so if you got to pick winners and he was on the losing team this time, you might, unless there was somebody really good over there on the sidelines that you like better than him, you might get him on your team because you knew he's going to help you win, because he cheated like a dog every day, every game. But guess what? Here's another thing. It was a deterrent to people acting like he acted, because the rest of us could see this too. Nobody wanted him on their team, even though he gave them an unfair advantage, especially if the game was 3-on-3 or less. His cheating had enough influence on it to give you a real unfair advantage when he was on your team. Now, when it got to be a 4-man game or a 5-man game, sometimes in those days we played 5 men, but usually it was 4 was the max. But on a half-court game, it diminished him a little bit more. But in a 3-on-3 or a 2-on-2, when you got somebody on your team that takes advantage of the rules like he did, it gave you an advantage to have him on your team, even if you didn't like him. And one good thing to not have to play against him was to have him on your team. Now he's playing on your team. Still, the only way anybody that knew him ever picked him up was if they just didn't know nothing about him, because nobody wanted to take advantage of the game like that. Nobody wanted the spirit of the game to be affected like he affected it, because we love the game. Sometimes he got picked, but most of the time, for him to get back into the flow of things, the play of things, he had to get over and sit in the winner's line and wait 3 or 4 games until now he's the guy that got winners, and now he can get some guys to play with him, and here he comes again. Wouldn't it be good if our leaders, our politicians, took that attitude towards others who completely lose their mind and completely do stupid things that affect the integrity of our political system and the effectiveness of how it could work, should work? if they could just look at that like we looked at him and said, I don't want no part of that, even if it benefits me, I don't want no part of it. I'm going to keep thinking about it and still keep plugging away at it. I don't know how you and I, the guy that doesn't have really anything going for us except our vote, and now our vote, I mean, they've proven that it don't even matter about your vote. You know, votes can be manufactured. Our vote and maybe our voice, maybe word of mouth. So I'm just going to, I guess, keep hammering that a little bit from here, there, and yonder. I want to say one more thing. I wanted to say that in the video, and I didn't really have a video planned, and still don't have a good plan. For one, I'm just kind of meandering around, so that it looks like maybe the last video I released this year is going to be probably the most haphazard, meandering, sojourning here, there, and yonder video that I've got out there. Because I started with this, and now I'm going to finish with something else. Betty and I, those of you who don't know who Betty is, she's my best friend, my sweetheart, my loving wife for the last 56 or 7 years. I think it'll be 57 next year, next February. My childhood sweetheart, every good thing that you can think of about me, she had a part to do with it. Most of the things she didn't like about me, she had something to do with getting rid of them things too. She's my wife, Betty. Her and I recently had COVID-19, the nasty 19, what we've all been dreading. Actually, what she and I thought, if we couldn't avoid it, would be our demise. When this first started happening last spring and through the early part of the summer, and when we were isolating ourselves from our family and everybody else, we were absolutely certain that if we got it, given our physical condition and age and some other factors like her being A blood type and me having a heart condition and her having problems with her lungs already and a whole bunch of things like that, we were certain if we got it, it's a death sentence for us. So I'm glad we didn't get it back then, because it might have been a death sentence for us. A lot of things have happened since last February and March up until today that have changed things. Having said that, I'm going to mention the most significant thing that's happened, and then I'm going to mention some other things, and I'm going to go back to, let's start with the most significant thing. The most significant thing that has happened in all this COVID stuff is we have now, as I speak, a vaccine to eliminate the spread of this disease. I want to say one little thing about vaccines. Vaccines have changed the life expectancy for Americans in the last 100 years more than any other single thing anywhere ever. At the start of the 1900s, life expectancy for a man in the United States of America was probably 55, 56, 57 years old, something like that. Today, it's probably 20 years added to that. And a lot of people live way beyond that. But the average, and vaccines has more to do with that than any other thing. They've just totally eradicated things that used to kill people every year. Now this vaccine, and what a lot of you don't like about this vaccine is the next thing I'm going to say. Probably, if you'd be honest and think about what's happened and think about what would have happened had it not been for him, the fact that we got a vaccine in the length of time that we got it And the reason we got it was because of Donald J. Trump saying, hey guys, that's not good enough. Hey guys, I don't care what it took. So, half of our country hates our president to the degree that they can't even have a rational thought if his name's associated with it. But we're going to have a vaccine, or we have a vaccine that future generations will acknowledge we wouldn't have had it not been for him. And his insistence that we have it. Just because big pharma lobbyists and lobbyists for big World Health organizations that had the goal of making the maximum amount of money with the minimum amount of risk had taken 2 to 5 years always to develop a vaccine. And he said, that's not good enough this time. I don't care how much money you make. I'll try to help you minimize your risk, but we got to have a vaccine sooner than 2 to 5 years. And because he insisted on that, we got one. I'm going to let that take me back to another point that I made in another video, and I'm going to try to wrap this video up talking about that situation. Don't know how successful I'm going to be because I feel a rant coming, and I've been all over the map already today. Truth. I made a video, or a couple of them maybe, about truth, about how hard it is to get the truth about anything. And part of that is it's hard for us to hear the truth. If it's coming from a source that we don't want to deal with, for some of you it's Fox News, for the rest of you it's all the other news media. It doesn't matter, it's one side or the other. And there's a few other small independent ones that try to tell you something true. And I'll even say the Hard Times Chronicles tries to give you a little bit of truth once in a while, if I can find some. And I'm going to do it here in a minute. Truth, hard to come by. And it's hard to sort. I mean, people can tell you things as if it's the truth because they think it's the truth. And one of the problems we got today with social media is everybody's opinion counts for something, or so they think. And I'm right there with them. I think my opinion ought to count. And I got a big audience. I got my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren. I know are going to watch my videos. My sister. Other than that, but at least I know that group that I just mentioned, I got enough credibility with them that when I say something, they're at least going to consider that there might be something to it. You know, the old guy hadn't steered us that wrong yet. But it's so hard to get the truth. People get on news media nowadays, and they have an agenda, and whatever news source it is, they have an agenda, and to support their agenda they bring in an expert. And there's so many experts now. How can a person be an expert when they come on TV or they come on whatever it is media they're on, and they tell you something that is 180 degrees diametrically opposite from what the last person told you, and the last person was presented to you as an expert? Anybody can be an expert. I can be an expert. You know, I got the credentials a lot of people that are experts have. Here I am, off to the side, and the TV announcer's sitting here, and they say, our next guest, Luke Mooneyham, published author, I'm a published author. See that? That's a book. See that name at the bottom of it? Luke Mooneyham. Says I wrote this book. And there it is. It's published. Outskirts Press. You know what it takes to publish a book? Money. You got some money, you can get a book published. You don't even have to write it. Have somebody else write it for you. All it takes is money. But, you know, I published a book. Look, take a look at that book. See that? It's my granddaughter. Isn't she beautiful? It's when she was in high school. See those dogs? Two of my favorite dogs of all time, and I've owned, I don't know, somewhere between 50 and 100 bird dogs. Bird dogs. You know what else? How many ever heard of Dana Perino? You heard of her? She's on Fox News, that channel that half of you hate. She has a program in the afternoon. I don't know what it's got a name. I can't tell you what the name of it is. There's another program that comes on at 5 o'clock. It's called The Five. She's on that program. She's one of 5 people that's regular on that program. And so she's got name recognition to half the people in the United States, the ones that watch Fox News often enough to recognize a name from somebody on there. Me, I watch all of them. I know Jim Acosta. I know Wolf Blitzer. I know Rachel Maddow. Yeah, I know all them people. Because I watch all of them, trying to find out who's telling me the truth and who isn't. And when you get on one channel and they're telling you all this, and you get on another channel and they're telling you 180 degrees opposite of that, somebody's lying to you. And if you can't get on there and decipher what's going on and who's saying what, and then try to watch an event where you really saw what happened, for instance, Donald Trump, who most, half the viewing public not going to watch him when he comes on. They ain't going to watch him unless it's a Saturday night skit making fun of him. They, turn that off. Don't want to watch that orange-haired idiot. And half the people that support him, like me, I'm a supporter of him. Half the people that support him don't like him. They don't like things he does. I don't like a lot of things that he's done. He's made more enemies than he ever needed to. It's kept him from getting some things done that were important to me. But when he says something and I watch him say it, and then I watch what CNN said he said, and what Fox said he said, and what MSNBC said he said, and what ABC said he said, then I saw him say what he said, and I can take what they tell me that he said, and I can tell who's lying to me. So I can know, who to believe and who not to believe. And I'm going to guarantee you something. Every stinking one of them has lied to me at some point or another. They lie and they exaggerate. Dana Perino, I started to tell you about her. See them dogs? They're bird dogs. Dana Perino could have endorsed this book. That should make me an expert. She has a bird dog. It's a Vizsla. Not very many people hunt birds with Vizslas, but that's what they are. They're bird dogs. She loves it. She talks about it all the time when she's on TV. I thought, I'm going to share the common interest that we have of the love of bird dogs. I'm going to send her a copy of my book and give her an opportunity to say, hey, Luke Mooneyham wrote a book. It's got some nice looking bird dogs on the front. So I sent it to her. See there? She had the opportunity to endorse my book. That makes me almost an expert about anything. Well, I'm going to tell you what I'm an expert about today. I'm an expert about if you want the truth, if you want truthful information, if you want to know what's going on You can't just turn on the channel that you like to listen to and find it. You got to dig for it. I told you that Betty and I had the coronavirus, COVID-19. We had it. I told you that we lived in mortal fear of getting it for a long time, and we went way out of our way to make sure we didn't get it. We stayed separate from our children, our grandchildren, and our great-grandchildren for weeks, months. Never got even close to them for fear of COVID-19. And that may not mean a lot to a lot of you people, but anybody that knows me knows that, man, I love my family. I love for them to be around me. I'm a blessed man. And I have a wonderful family. And I love for them to be around me. And they accommodate my desire to have them around. In normal times, they're here several times a week. And almost every Sunday afternoon, most of them are here. And if it's anybody's birthday, they're all here. If it's any kind of a holiday, they're all here. For Betty and I to quarantine ourselves from that's significant. But we did it out of fear of COVID. And it may have saved our lives, because we may not have been able to survive COVID had we got it in April or May or June. But we got it in December of 2020. And we still, when the phone rang and they said, Mr. Mooneyham, verify your date of birth, and I told them who I was, and they said, your COVID test has come back positive. A sinking feeling in my gut. And then they went on talking to me about it, and they told me about a thing called monoclonal antibody infusion. You ever hear that? I'm going to venture to say that a whole bunch of you never heard of it. I never heard of it. Didn't know there was such a thing. Monoclonal, M-O-N-O-C-L-O-N-A-L, monoclonal antibody infusion. They said if you are within 7 days of your first symptoms, you can get this treatment. And they started telling me about it. I said, yeah, I want that. So they tell me what I had to do about getting it. And it was available to me because of the risks that my age and my underlying health conditions presented for me. I don't know whether just anybody can get it. Everybody doesn't qualify for it. But Betty and I did, and we went. Long story short, we were notified on Thursday that we had this positive test. Friday, we went to Indianapolis and got this infusion of antibodies, which worst case scenario minimizes the effect that the coronavirus is going to have on you. Makes the effects of it a lot less for a lot of people. And for some people, makes it almost nothing. And guess what? Here I am. It was almost nothing. For Betty, it was almost nothing. Would it have been worse? Who knows? I don't know. But I can tell you this. I got the available treatment, and my experience with COVID was nearly nothing. And I'd never heard of this treatment until I got the news that I had a positive test. And I asked the people in Indianapolis where we went to get the treatment. I said, how long you been doing this? You know how long they've been doing it? A little over a week. Something that they didn't have before. Something that just came up. I got to researching it online. You know what I found out? One of the reasons we don't know anything about it was when they first got the approval to use it, they thought everybody will want this. They're going to overrun us. We won't be able to meet the demand. People are going to be mad. We're going to have riots. And so we'll only tell those people that really need it, that we know qualify. And, you know, long story short, I hadn't heard of it. Have you heard of it? Wouldn't you think something like that, everybody would have heard of it? Everybody would know about it? It reminds me of those morons in the grocery store in my hometown. Betty and I like a certain kind of bread. And we like a certain kind of blackberry pie. And there's a few other things like that that we like. And we don't want to substitute. That's what we want if we can get it. And for some reason or another, we picked out something a little bit hard to get. There's not that much of it as there is some other things. And so then our grocery store that we usually went to, they quit carrying those things. And this happened over time. And not with all at once, one thing and then another thing and then another thing. And when we had asked the people, what happened to this certain kind of thing that we like and like to buy, and we can't get it anymore, what happened? What do we have to do to get that here? And you know what they told us? They told us, we can't keep that on these shelves because, and then they told us about the reasons that it was a limited supply of it, a small company, whatever. Only one bread delivery guy or only one this kind of food distributor guy. We can't keep it on the shelves, so our customers are always mad at us for not having it. Our solution to that problem is don't stock it anymore. People will get used to eating something else, and they won't be mad at us for not being able to keep that. So we quit carrying that. If I was the manager of that store and I heard one of my employees tell a customer what they just told me and what I just told you, that person would have been fired so fast that it would have been a blur as I ushered them out the front door. I wouldn't even let them stop and pick up their coat. I'd had somebody take it to them. Boy, I sure didn't intend to go there. But that's the kind of thing I'm telling you. People don't have to be experts. People don't have to be smart. People don't have to make good decisions. So if you want something, you need to dig and scratch and claw and be persistent to get the information you need to make the decisions you need, because there ain't nobody out there looking out for you. There ain't nobody out there making sure that you got all the information you need and you can make the best decisions. And you're screening people out of the equation yourself because you don't like these people or you don't like those people. Well, the good news is there are other things besides monoclonal antibody infusions. There is that. There are other things. There are things that are treating us more effectively than we were getting treated 6 months ago or 8 months ago or 10 months ago. We're making progress against this thing. Cheer up. Have hope. Have confidence. And get in there and dig and do what you can to find out what the truth is and then act on it. And when you can, share it with somebody else. I'm a hard times guy. And I'm not even going to try to end this rant with any graceful thing. I'm just going to say I'm the Hard Times Guy. Subscribe to my videos. Like this one if you can. If you already turned it off, you're not hearing this anyway. Until the next time, have a good day.